All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jorge Uthmeier, and I'm the director of the Statewide Training Initiative with Florida Legal Services. We're excited to have you join us today for Natural Disasters with Pets, a discussion on troopers law and best practices for preparation. Before I introduce our speaker, I do want to go through some quick housekeeping announcements. This training is being recorded, so if you registered, you're going to receive a copy from Zoom within about 24 hours with the link to the recording and the materials. We will also be posting it on YouTube. So if you were unable to register, you're going to be able to find it on our YouTube channel. I'll drop the links for our YouTube channel in the chat as well. The training was approved by the Florida Bar for one General CLE credit. I'll announce the CLE code towards the end of the presentation. I will also drop it into the chat. You will also find that CLE code in the YouTube description, and you can also find that CLE code in the Zoom email in case I miss it or I forget to share it later on. So closed captions are enabled for anybody who needs them. If you're having any issues with accessibility, just let me know in the chat or via email, and I'll see what I can do about those captions. This training is being co-hosted by the Public Interest Law section of the Florida Bar, or PILS. So if you're not familiar with PILS, I encourage you to take a look at the website. We have a lot of work groups, a lot of committees that serve different purposes. There are a lot of benefits for law students as well. So if you're not familiar, be on the lookout for our website. I'm going to drop it into the chat along with our social media account. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can drop them in the Q&A feature, just in case. We may be able to try to address them during, but if time permits, we'll address any questions towards the end. So in case before I introduce our speaker, I'm going to kind of give you a heads up. This is not the first time we've had Lauryn present with us. If you missed it, Lauryn led an amazing presentation on animal law is everywhere back in September. So I'm going to drop the link for that recording in case if you missed it, if you were unable to watch it back then. And I will also include all of that information in the email that goes out from Zoom. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker for today, Lauryn A. Lauryn is a senior assistant statewide prosecutor with the Florida Attorney General's office, where she prosecutes complex cases across Florida with a focus on animal cruelty, elder abuse, and exploitation. She also serves as an adjunct professor at Barry University School of Law, teaching trial advocacy and animal law. Previously, she was a prosecutor in the Ninth Judicial Circuit, where she led the animal cruelty unit and handled high-profile cases involving child and animal abuse. Lauren is active nationally and locally, serving on boards and task forces dedicated to prosecution, animal protection, and professionalism. She has received multiple awards for her leadership and advocacy, including the 2025 National Top Animal Defender Award. So, without further ado, Lauren, thank you so much for being here again for us today. I know how busy your schedule is, so we are really grateful for having you join us today and lead this presentation. So, with all that said, Lauren, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jorge. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, everyone who's attending the webinar, and to all the people who might watch this recording later. I'm really excited to talk about this topic because it is one that is quite near and dear to my heart. I was just joking around with Jorge and letting him know that it's like a common phrase that I say, that I love inclement weather, which may seem kind of bizarre, but I'll tell you a little bit more why in just a moment. So a little bit about kind of the flow for the webinar this afternoon. We're going to talk about why this topic is important, natural disasters and planning for companion animals, but also why it should be important for our legal community as well. We're going to have a discussion about Troopers Law, which some of you may be familiar with and some of you may not. And then we'll get into the different types of natural disasters and emergency preparedness planning with companion animals and other types of pets. Then we're going to talk about other types of concurrent criminal acts and some examples of cases and poor planning. And of course, I would not leave you without any resources for your own personal emergency planning in these types of situations. So a little bit more about me. Um, I am a career prosecutor, and I'm also an animal activist. Prior to being a prosecutor, some people know, some people don't know, but I was a vet tech. I actually had my Bachelor of Science in Animal Science from North Carolina State University, and I had gotten into vet school. I'd worked for the American Kennel Club, the Bronson Animal Disease Laboratory, and I had a specialization where I was going to do zoonotic disease control as a veterinarian and working with the CDC. Hopefully, that was the original plan. Obviously, that didn't happen. I dropped out of vet school and went to law school at FSU. Um, but in addition to that, so my passion for animals has run deep. But my dad, who is a general in the United States Air Force, had always raised myself and my siblings to be prepared for all emergency situations. The picture that you see on your screen on the left-hand side of the dog on top of the car, that's a stock photo, not a personal photo, but a stock photo from Hurricane Katrina. Many of you can recall Hurricane Katrina, which wreaked havoc on the city of New Orleans and surrounding parishes in Louisiana and the Alabama surrounding states in August of 2005. Hurricane Katrina directly impacted my family. My dad is from the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans and grew up there. And so my dad's entire side of the family was directly impacted by Hurricane Katrina. I personally can remember driving back on I-10 into New Orleans after the storm had passed and they had opened the roads and just seeing all of the dead bodies on the side of the road, all of the animals that were abandoned, the dead animals, the starved animals, the people on top of houses. That's a memory that is living with me and always has. And the lack of preparation that the people had, that the city had, that the government had, has always been a huge conversation in our household and in my life growing up. The lack of notice, all of the many things. There's many documentaries on Katrina and what happened and what we have learned from it and can still learn from it. But when it comes to the animals, there were over 70,000 animals that perished in the floods, whether it was flooding or starvation or acts of violence, people shooting the animals because they were ravaging what little food was there or water or resources. So to preserve resources, a lot of them were also killed. And so that happened in August 2005. And then the picture on the right-hand side in 2006, when I was in high school, I had a house fire. And so I remember watching the Titanic on VHS with the multiple sides and the multiple tapes and hearing kind of a scratching noise at our garage door, which led into our kitchen, and being like, what is that scratching noise? And I went over to the door. My mom went over to the door. It was just her and I home. At the time, I believe my dad was deployed in one of his tours over in Afghanistan, and we opened the door and the flames just burst in. So our garage had caught on fire, and the fire spread to the rest of the house. That situation I remember also quite vividly, but luckily for myself, my dad had instilled in us a great deal of emergency preparedness planning and what to do in the most chaotic and extreme situations that you don't ever believe that you're going to find yourself in. Most people have not had to experience a house fire or a house fire that's quite severe and significant, but I did, and my friends still talk about how cool, calm, and collected I was because I was the one that called 911 and I reported all of the information I needed to report very calmly, very accurately. Our house, still had a lot of damage to it, but we weren't injured. The animals weren't injured, and we lived in hotels and with friends for a while after that. But that we had a plan in place. So all this to say just a little bit more about my personal background that some people may not know and why this topic means so much to me. Okay, and why is this important for the community at large? So a lot of people recognize, pets are family too. So when natural disasters happen and the pets are not considered in the emergency planning, whether it's with an individual family or within a community, bad things can happen. So, as we just discussed with Hurricane Katrina, it's estimated over 100,000 pets were left behind. So that doesn't include the ones that had other things happen to them, but pets that people know that they had to leave behind. 83% of pet owners are impacted by disasters, and fewer than half of people who own pets have emergency preparedness plans. I know a lot of people that I know personally who have pets don't even have a plan for themselves. Nevertheless, they're pets, which is fine, but that's why we do these types of educational webinars and trainings. More than 1 in 5 pet owners have evacuated their homes due to a disaster, and about half have left at least one pet behind. Over 30% of pet owners said that they've left behind at least one dog, 20% at least one cat, and 8% at least one horse or equine animal. So I'll also be talking about, companion animals, dogs, cats, rabbits are important, but we also have our livestock, farm animals, and also exotic animals as well. And 40% of pet owning evacuees did not return to their homes for at least 4 days, which is also important when we talk about recovery, which we'll get to in a little bit, and having a plan in place for recovery, because unfortunately we can plan all we want, and sometimes things happen and we can't use plan A, B, or C. And so then you have to go to worst case scenario, what's our recovery plan? And then we'll discuss, the concurrent criminal activity that happens during disasters. So it's important to have this conversation so that we can be aware of it in advance. So let's talk about Trooper. Let's start with Trooper. So Trooper was originally a dog named Jumbo, and the defendant, the owner of Jumbo, had had him since he was a puppy and had been trying to get rid of him for a few weeks. Hurricane Milton came through Central Florida in 2024, and during the hurricane, Florida Highway Patrol discovered Jumbo tied to a fence along I-75. Through the investigation of the case, there were some statements made by the defendant's mother that while they were evacuating to Georgia, they let Jumbo out on the side of I-75 in the rain. There was an alleged statement made by the defendant that he last saw Jumbo standing in water and left him behind. There was no active admission, allegedly, that he actually tied Jumbo to the fence, but FHP found him tied to the fence. This is a still shot from that camera footage, and the water levels were steady rising. So as you can see right here, where's the mouse? There it goes, right here along his breastbone and the top of his limbs, you can see there's the water level there. So he's tied to the fence here, and the water level was rising. And so they did rescue him, because otherwise, since he was tied to the fence, he would have drowned. He would not have been able to escape that. So originally the defendant was charged for the aggravated animal cruelty for abandoning him and leaving him to die. But the charges were later dropped by the state. The important thing to note here is that in Florida, our aggravated animal cruelty statute says that there can be an act or omission. And a lot of people forget about the omission part, and it's something that I try to train a lot of prosecutors about, because it can be an act or omission. And then that act or failure to act led to unnecessary pain and suffering, or cruel death of the animal. And so certainly there potentially could have been an argument made that his failure to act, failure to care for the dog and leaving him out in the rain, would have led to an unnecessary pain and suffering or cruel death. Obviously, as prosecutors, we know that defendants make statements all the time, and most people are not going to actively admit, yes, I tied the dog up during the hurricane. But the closest he got to it was, I left him there and I didn't tie him up. So, different styles in prosecution, and I didn't personally review the case, so I can't comment on all of the evidence they did or didn't have. But what happened was the charges were dropped, and that led to outrage through the media, the public, and then ultimate legislative action. So last year in October, the law was passed, and it's now effective, that if you commit these misdemeanor levels of abandonment or cruelty or confinement of an animal during a state of emergency, that is now a third-degree felony. It did not change the current felony aggravated animal cruelty, because it was already a felony. So there is no current enhancement where, if you've already committed that aggravated animal cruelty during the state of emergency, it doesn't elevate it from an F3 to an F2 or second-degree felony or anything like that. But it basically makes that simple misdemeanor confinement or abandonment during a state of emergency a felony. So the public outrage did spark that change. So he was renamed Trooper because he was officially adopted in December 2024, and they named him Trooper from the Florida Highway Patrol trooper who rescued him. So he's no longer Jumbo and is now Trooper. So it's important to highlight this case for the legal community because, we can often forget about how the law can help us better prepare and educate for emergency disasters, natural disasters. It's not something that can just be handled with, okay, let's monitor a storm on Facebook. There are a lot of things that we can do in the legal community to help ourselves better prepare, or to hold people accountable when they take advantage of certain things during natural disasters, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So let's get into the types of natural disasters that affect companion animals and other kinds of animals. Some of these are not going to be as common to Florida, so I do this presentation on the National Animal Cruelty Task Force, and I've done it for the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, which obviously covers all of the United States. So I'll be skipping over some of the ones like blizzard, for example, that we don't have. That's not per se something we have to worry about in Florida. Okay. Oh, I don't know why that looks kind of funky like that, but wildfire. All right. Oh, it's probably because I've converted it from a PowerPoint to a PDF. So we'll start with wildfires. So wildfires are forest fires or bush fires that happen in an unplanned or uncontrolled way, usually in an area of combustible vegetation, aka forest fires types of things. It depends on the type of vegetation, so it may be then specifically identified as a bush fire, desert fire, grass fire, a hill fire, etc. Um, so the most important thing to know is that while these are not super common in Florida, this was something that the last time I gave this presentation, we focused really heavily on the Los Angeles wildfires and some of the animal rescue efforts that were going on there. We do have some wildfires in Florida, and on the next slide, we'll also talk about house fires, because as you know, I have personal experience with that. So fire in general is something that we should be prepared for with pets. So how to prepare for wildfire specifically with pets. You want to have a source to check the air quality early and frequently. This is really important because if you are just kind of relying on visually how something looks, that may not be the best approach because the air quality is going to affect not only yourself and your respiratory system, but your animals. And we know that certain breeds of dogs or certain breeds of cats or other types of companion animals are really going to struggle if the air quality drops rather quickly. And you want to limit your pet's exposure to smoke and particulates. So if there is a fire in the area and you normally leash walk them all the way around the neighborhood, maybe you start to confine them to the backyard, have some fans blowing, or, once things get really bad as you're working on your evacuation, we're moving to potty pads in the house type of thing. You want to increase the usage of air purifiers. And to increase the usage of air purifiers, that means you want to make sure you have some air purifiers already on hand. And we don't want to wait until the news has broken that there's something happening in our area to go out and buy things, which we'll also talk about in a bit. Having fire safe boxes for important documents is important. This is important in emergency preparedness anyway. I have fire safe and flood safe boxes for all of my important documents. You want to know of any respiratory health concerns. So like I said, if you are unaware, you should go ahead and educate yourself if you have a breed of animal that is susceptible or more susceptible to respiratory issues, like a pug or something like that. You need to have your evacuation route planned and have crate trained and harness trained animals. This is going to be key, and this is going to be a theme that comes up with all of the types of natural disasters that we talk about. Crate training and harness training is incredibly important because in the event of an emergency, you do not have time to chase a dog around or try to get a cat into a carrier or try to catch your bird if your bird free flies around the house. You need to have your animals be comfortable and be ready to go into whatever containment form that you have for them to get them safely to the next place. Go bag essentials, including N95 masks. And if you have livestock or horses, making sure that you have livestock crayons available to write contact information. Or you can use clippers to shave it into their coat if their coat would be long enough. That's something that's good because, if you need to release them and that way, somebody who finds them after the emergency is over can easily contact them and you don't have to worry about something that may have fallen off of them. For horses, you could also braid a temporary tag with pre-written contact info into the horse's mane. If you don't have a crayon or if there's also other inclement weather going on and the crayon might wash away and you don't have clippers or time to do that, which I would recommend start doing it early anyway, but you could also braid a tag into the mane or attach a neckband. So with house fires, it's important. Everybody on this webinar hopefully has these things in their house already. The first thing being multiple multi-use fire extinguishers. So there are different types of fires, right? So for example, you can't use a certain type of, if you just have an A fire extinguisher, you can't use it on a B type of fire. So depending on if it's a grease fire, electrical fire, etc., you want to have the right fire extinguisher. But the good news is they make ABC fire extinguishers, which means it's a multi-use. It's a multi-purpose. You can use it on anything. So those are the ones that I buy. They have large ones. They have mini ones. I have them in not every room, but most rooms of the house, especially your kitchens, your garage, bathrooms, hallway closets, those types of things, anywhere where I can easily store one or get to one if I'm in a room adjacent. So you should have plenty of fire extinguishers in your house, and you want to check the expirations on them frequently, or leave a note to yourself or set a reminder when it's time to switch them out. Same thing with smoke detectors. You want to make sure that you have smoke detectors in your house. Carbon monoxide detectors are really important. If you don't have them installed like up in the ceiling, you can also get the plug-in ones, which is what's on the screen here, that picture on the left-hand side. So in my house, I have the hall detectors when I bought my house. My house was built in the late 90s. So we have the hallway detectors up on the ceiling, but I think there's 3. And so then I have probably 3 or 4 other plug-in detectors that I've put in the rooms just to make sure that no matter where smoke or carbon monoxide may go, if it can't reach one of those ceiling detectors, there's something else in the area that'll go off. So you can buy those online, and I'm also not promoting any, I'm not sponsored by any of these brands or anything. These are just things that I do personally. So installing extra detectors is really important for house fires. You want to check the fans, the filtration fans on your microwaves, your refrigerators, your stoves or ovens. That's really important. You don't want to ignore if the little boop boop comes on the microwave and it says change filter, change filter. A lot of people will ignore that, but that can become a fire hazard. So listen to the alerts, make sure that you set reminders for yourself to check those and to replace them as needed. And then of course, unplugging unused appliances is also a great practice to have. I believe there was the show A Million Little Things, and the dad, Jack, passed away after a crock pot set the house on fire because they left the crock pot plugged in. And, that happens, obviously. I mean, and I'm a big proponent of making sure that your house is as fireproof as possible, obviously, for my own personal reasons. Some people are, they're not fans of window tags. So window tags are those stickers that you can get at the store or online on Amazon where it will notify the fire department about who is in the house in the event, worst case scenario, if you're not home and the house catches on fire and you have pets in the home. It'll say like, please rescue, we have, and then you fill it in with like a Sharpie, like you could put 3 dogs, or you check off the box, dogs, cats, hamsters, whatever. I believe in the window tags. I understand that people who don't, because it might signal to potential burglars that there's certain animals in the house. Again, as a prosecutor, I have many other means of protecting my home and surveillance and all my other little booby traps for burglars. So for me, the risk of not having that notification there for the fire department outweighs what could happen. Outweighs my concern for a burglar knowing that I have three dogs in the house, which hopefully would deter them anyway. But I believe in the window tag, so that's something else you can do. You can do your own research on it. You just put them right in a front window where the fire department, if they're responding, they're going to scan for it, see it, and say, okay, there's three dogs in the house. We need to look out for them to rescue them. And then, of course, close your doors. It's very important to close doors when you're sleeping or when you're not home, because fire spreads easily with doors that are open. You close your doors and it will help to prevent fire from spreading as rapidly throughout a house. So I've met a lot of people who just I don't want to close the door. I can't close the door, especially parents. I don't want to close my kids' doors, but closing doors is something that really, really helps to reduce the risk of a fire spreading. So closing doors is important. All right. Hurricanes. So hurricanes, obviously the most common thing for us here in Florida. Um, our hurricane season is June 1st through November 30th. I'm sure everybody on this webinar is well aware of what a hurricane is and the scale that we have, 1 to 5. Anything over a 3 is considered a major hurricane for severe and life-threatening damage. If you're a native Floridian like myself, you probably, there's lots of jokes out there about, oh, well, we don't really get worried till it reaches a 4 type of thing. But nevertheless, whatever your own personal superstition or belief is about the hurricanes, you should always be prepared no matter what. I was in law school when I can't even remember, Hermine, I think it was the name. I came through went right over Tallahassee, and it was only a 1, but it took the siding right off of our house. And we were without power for a while. So even the ones when you're in their direct path can have some impact. So preparing for hurricanes with pets is really important. You need to know your evacuation route and any backup routes. You can make this a fun thing. And maybe it's just me because I love inclement weather and emergency preparedness and planning, but I like driving my routes, right? I like to see, okay, which way would I take if this happened? And if a tree fell down and this blocked, I have one way in and out of my neighborhood. If my neighborhood is blocked, which other way can I go? Can I get on my golf cart to go out a different way? Is it something that's walkable? Are there creeks in the way? So you need to know your routes, both your main route and any backup routes if anything happens. And most importantly, please know how to get where you need to go without GPS. That's one of the biggest things that I am so thankful to my dad for teaching me is the ability to navigate. I can use a compass, I can navigate with the sun, do the thing with the sun and the stars and all of that. Girl Scouts honor. I took it very seriously. There was a point in time where he dropped me and my friend off in this random kind of park forest thing, gave us a map and a compass and said, find your way to the location marked there. And we had to do that. Unconventional parenting methods, one would say back in the day, but it worked. It was effective. So you need to know how to get where you need to go without your GPS. So you should absolutely practice, know how to read a map, know how to use a compass, and worst case scenario, a type of situation. And monitoring the storm in advance is really important. You need to know what you're going to do and what your family is going to do. Are you going to board up or are you going to ride out the storm? You are almost always going to have time to decide with the advanced monitoring of storms that we have now, which is different from, the early 2000s. You're going to have at least a couple days to figure out what you're going to do. But in general, you should be having those conversations in the off season. You should know what your house is capable of sustaining. Do you have hurricane grade windows? What does your roof situation look like? Are you in a flood zone? These are all things that you should know about where you live or your apartment complex so that when we get notification a storm is developing, you're not trying to figure it out. Then you've already thought about these things in the off season. Same thing with your go bag. You need to be stocking your go bag throughout the off season and check for your expirations periodically, because then when you do your 72-hour builds, it's going to be fairly easy. You're not going to be running around at Publix or Trader Joe's or wherever trying to scramble, or Walmart to find toilet paper, paper towels, or canned goods or bread or whatever, because you're already going to be good to go. You'll just have to get a couple of things. And so making sure that your go bag is stocked throughout the year is really important. I do a much longer training on emergency preparedness in general, so this one will just be tailored to the pets. But if you're interested in that, just send me an email and I'll let you know. Again, have carrier or harness trained pets and water conditioned pets. So we have a lot of pets who don't, they can't, we even have our Doberman sometimes who doesn't like to go out to pee in the rain. But you know what? I make him go out and pee in the rain because when there's a hurricane, you're going to have to be out in the rain. All right. And so having water conditioned pets is very, very, very important so that you're not in a situation where you're trying to carry a Great Dane or you've got a cat that just is being so combative with you because of all of the water that's going on, whether it's rain or flood, which we'll get to in just a moment. Find a reliable weather tracker that you like. I really like Mike's weather page and some of the apps that I'll show you. Be wary of watching, the major news networks who are reporting because a lot of that is it may not be entirely accurate. So you want to find something that's a little bit more scientific and accurate to your area. All right. Um, the go bag with the life vest, the water shoes for livestock and horses. Again, you want to reinforce your barns and stable structures. Make sure you have proper drainage. Identify your flood-prone areas. Use water-resistant and wind-resistant tagging methods. And worst case scenario, say you're on a vacation in Italy and a storm happens in Florida, there's a hurricane that pops up, you're not home to do any sort of preparations. You need to be thinking about that in advance so that you have a home check contact. So you have a guardian identified that can go over to your house and check on your animals, whether it's before the storm or in the recovery mode after the storm. Floods are something that usually come as a result of the other types of disasters, most commonly hurricanes and tornadoes, but floods also happen on their own just with extensive rainfall. The most important thing in this for pets is making sure that your pets are water conditioned and also that you are preventing waterborne illness. So, waterborne illness can be very, very dangerous for both humans and animals, but especially animals because there are a lot of things like leptospirosis that spreads in the urine. And when you have a lot of water in an area, it's passing that around. And because our pets are walking on the ground or sniffing the ground, they can easily become very sick with waterborne diseases or diseases that are just spreading much more quickly because of a flood. So if you see that there's going to be flash flooding in your area, or if you see that there's a natural disaster that's coming or that is developing and your pets are not up to date on their vaccines, that's one of the easiest ways that you can prepare is if you don't normally get your dog a leptospirosis vaccine, maybe you consider getting them that vaccine just this year because there might be some flooding or active hurricanes happening. Same thing with making sure they're up to date on rabies and have flea, tick, and heartworm because with floods, standing water, we have more mosquitoes. Mosquitoes carry a lot of diseases. And so that's one of the easiest ways to try to prepare your pets for floods is water conditioning, waterproof carriers, inflatables, those types of things. But most importantly, making sure that you're protecting against the illnesses that easily spread when we have flooding and standing water. And you can also stock up on antifungals or making sure that if you do have antibiotics as a prescription from a veterinarian, that those are not expired and they're up to date. Tornadoes. So again, people know what tornadoes are, but we are not in Tornado Alley like the Midwest area, but we still get tornadoes here. I mean, there was one near my house last year, about 7 miles away, and it was a pretty large one, and it was quite fascinating because I've always thought I would be a tornado chaser in another life too. So, but we do get them here in Florida. Most important thing for tornadoes, because they do just kind of drop out of the sky out of nowhere. Yes, they're associated with, they can come with hurricanes or other summer thunderstorms, but they really are hard to prepare for, but they are easy to practice for. you must have reliable recall and practice with your animals because if there's a tornado watch or warning that happens, your pets need to be able to recall immediately. So recall practice is incredibly important, which means that when you call for your animal, they come to you. That's why that is so important because if you need to call them and you're trying to get bags together and get kids and get car seats or do whatever you need and get to a shelter, you don't have time to be chasing after animals. You need them to be, particularly dogs, you need them to have reliable recall. So you can do drills, you can practice. Oh my gosh, chaos, everybody, let's move. You grab this, you grab that. Make sure your family has their assignments of who's supposed to do what and know where your shelter is and practice getting there as quickly as possible. Okay, so heat wave. Um, I know in Florida it feels like every summer is a heat wave. Sometimes just random days is are heat waves. But for pets, the most important here is just educating yourself on the signs of heat stroke. So with our companion animals, that's going to be excessive panting, difficulty breathing, increased heart rate, drooling, weakness. They can also have seizures, bloody diarrhea, and vomit are early signs of heat stroke. We take rectal temperatures for the most part of animals. So if you have a thermometer that you have just for your animals, don't share them with the rest of the family, obviously. You're going to be looking for a body temperature over 104 degrees. Pugs, Persian cats, again, those with higher susceptibility to respiratory issues are also going to be more susceptible to heat stroke. If you have longer haired animals, you want to trim it, never shave. You don't ever want to shave and remove the coat, but you want to trim the hair and stockpile your emergency cooling methods, which can include battery operated fans, misting fans, cooling mats, cooling vests, making sure that you have clean water and abilities to shade or cool down the animals. So, not waiting until the last minute to try to order those things. These are just things that you should keep on hand in your emergency preparedness closet if you have one like I do, or you're going to build one in your home or your apartment. We'll skip blizzard and earthquake, but if you're interested, these materials will be provided at the end of the presentation. You can read through it. Um, so preparation before the disaster is really important. Um, you want to make sure that you have your emergency kits, all of your identification for your animals, your evacuation plan, know what your out of area accommodations are going to be if you're going to evacuate, and know if you're staying in the area where your pet friendly shelters are. Um, Make sure that you've reviewed your homeowner's insurance or renter's insurance. Look for coverage for pet injuries, boarding, and property damage. Make sure that I'm a big proponent of pet insurance. If you have it, you review it so that you know what disaster-related injuries are covered or not covered. And of course, just like with anything else that we plan for in life, it's important to have emergency funds for pet specific expenses. You have your emergency preparedness savings for other things that may come about, but making sure that you don't forget your pets in that financial planning. In recovery after a disaster, you want to look for, if your pets have been able to stay with you, you want to look for behavior changes. So we're looking for increased stress, aggression, fearfulness that they didn't quite have before, because you're looking to see if there's something else going on that you might need to address once you've gotten yourself and your family in a safe and comfortable place. Again, if you're not able to be with your pet, making sure you have a home check guardian designated and a reunification plan. Hey, if all else fails, power goes out, phone lines go down, whatever, you're responsible. You're going to go over, check on my pets, and we're going to give each other 3 days, and then we're going to meet at the McDonald's on Colonial, or whatever the case may be. So making sure you have your reunification plan in place and that everyone knows the plan, is aware of the plan, has the plan written down somewhere. Don't rely on the phones, just in case you don't have cell phone service or your phone dies and you can't get to a charger, you don't have backup chargers, whatever the case may be. Always be on the lookout for debris and contaminated water. Reestablishing routines is really important, not only for kids, but for pets. And then be aware of different types of financial aid that's available after the disaster. And in worst case scenarios, when people lose everything, just like in this picture here, and they aren't prepared and they don't have the financial ability to care for their pets, to make sure that they go to a safe surrender program. So here's an example of a pet emergency kit checklist. Again, this will be provided so that you can see everything that's on there. on the list and make sure that you are getting as much of this as possible throughout the year. And then in your 72-day or 72-hour, excuse me, go bag for everything except for a tornado. So, what are some legal considerations that happen in natural disasters? We see a lot of criminal neglect and abandonment, like Trooper's Law, people who just they forget about their pets or they leave them behind because they don't have the time or the money to take them. We have cruelty, so people are committing intentional cruelty acts during that. And then there's some other things that take place at the civil level, like right to rescue and animal sheltering mandates. But I want to talk about concurrent criminal activity because it's something that a lot of people forget about. So, aside from dealing with people who may have abandoned their animals like Trooper's Law, we also have a lot of fraud. Criminals love disasters. There are a ton of fake charities that pop up, sham rescues. So there have been a lot with the LA wildfires, and also after every hurricane, almost they pop up and say, "Hey, we're here to rescue these animals that were left behind in the hurricane," and they get people to donate to their animal rescue because they're rescuing the animals, and really they're not, or they might go to a shelter and say, oh, because it's a kill shelter, they're trying to make space because of the disaster that took place, they'll take the animals and they'll claim to be no kill. But what there's a phrase, it's not a no kill, but it's a slow kill because these rescues are not legitimate. They're people that are just out to collect money, and the money is not actually going to care for the animals. The animals still end up in terrible conditions, neglected, starved, abused, sometimes outright killed. And so it's important to be very mindful of that type of scam that goes on. Same thing with the fake donation or fake relief websites. We have a lot of officer impersonation that takes place during natural disasters with people who have nefarious intent, unfortunately, will impersonate various types of law enforcement officers or animal control officers. Oh, hey, the hurricane's coming. We'll take your animal to the shelter for you. But and they see somebody with a dog that maybe looks like a little Frenchie, and what they're going to do is they're going to turn around and sell that dog to somebody else and represent them that they're a breeder of the dog. And so there's just a lot of fraud that happens in natural disasters, and unfortunately, people take advantage of people who are scared, who are unprepared, and who don't know any better, just trying to do the best for their animal and their family and keep themselves safe in a disaster or after the fact. And then, of course, artificial intelligence. So AI is on the rise. This is a clip from a news article where during Hurricane Helene, there was this picture that went quite viral of this little girl in a rescue kayak with the life vest on and the little puppy. Um, you know, and we see this too with the AI. People are now using the AI to create rescue photos and attempts, and oh, look at all these dogs, and we need your help, and um, we need you to donate here and help us with this and help us with that. But this was AI. This was completely fake. And so once it was determined that that was AI, then a lot of people were outraged. They wanted their money back. They wanted this, they wanted that. And so AI is really becoming a problem with these disasters. I mean, I anticipate that we're going to see it. I see it a lot in my job now, even with the child exploitation. We're seeing a lot of AI child pornography. I anticipate with hurricane seasons and more disasters that happen, we're going to see a lot more of this, and it's going to be a lot harder to tell. And people are going to think that a disaster is worse than it is, so that they can scam them and get money, or people will think that, maybe I imagine we might even see some with hurricane tracks, right? We're going to see people pretending to be meteorologists or making fake meteorology videos that the hurricane is coming this way, and then that's going to circulate and cause panic and get people to do certain things. And so we just have to be really mindful of that. Um, we already discussed Hurricane Katrina, but some of the other things that we see is or that we have seen from poor planning and other case studies other than Hurricane Katrina and troopers and this AI that we've seen here is I personally I did a jury trial on a violation of curfew during Hurricane Irma, which was um, it was something else, I'll tell you that. But, we have certain laws in place about what people can do, but there's really not a whole lot involving animals with natural disasters. And it feels like the scam and the fraud is really kind of outrunning the race with the law to change it. So we have a lot of people, we have price gouging. It can't rise to an unconscionable level during a state of emergency. We have, you can get your prescriptions emergency filled. But what we're seeing more is that those laws are kind of being tweaked in the fraud and the scam. And with AI too, we see, the grandparent scams. People are calling, oh, hey, it's a fake AI voice. Hey, grandma, this is Lauren. I need $1,000 because, I've got to make sure that I get this hotel and I've got to get that so I can evacuate. And it's completely fake just to get the money out of a family member who might be in another state where the emergency isn't taking place. So we really should, as a legal community, be thinking about ways that we can take action like we did with Troopers Law to address these issues that come up during these states of emergencies. So here's some resources and tools for you all, because I do want to make sure that I leave time for questions. Um, so there's obviously the pet emergency kit checklist, which is included in this presentation that you all will have. FEMA has an app that has some information on it, but the other ones that I really like are the ones that I personally use. So there's the Pet Finder Disaster Relief Directory. So that's, again, looking at more the recovery after a disaster if your pet's been lost. Um, ASPCA has a mobile app for pet ID storage. So if you have microchip or just general identification information for your animals, you can put it in there, and that way it's stored somewhere, allegedly in the cloud with the cloud database thing. But in the event that servers go down or you lose your access to your own personal phone or login, that you have that. And then bringfido.com and petswelcome.com are hotel databases where you can start planning in advance, which is really important, planning in advance on if your family says, I recommend each family has a rule. Or if you're a single person, you have a rule for yourself. Okay, if we get a category 4 or higher hurricane, we are evacuating no matter what. And then you use these resources to figure out where you're going to go. If it's not going to be to another family member outside of your disaster area, or you don't have those family resources or friend resources, then use these databases to figure out where we're going to go. Let's look at the average cost. Let's make sure we have that cost in our emergency plan. Or maybe your plan is, okay, if it's a category 3 or lower, we're going to shelter in place. Unless the eye of the hurricane comes within 30 miles of our home, right? Or maybe you shelter in place no matter what. So those are the examples of the types of pre-planning that you need to do and the way that you can use these resources to help you with pre-planning in that way. HasAdapt is a fantastic app. I love this app. You can customize your emergency planning, and it also includes specific tabs for pets. So it has a step-by-step guide. It talks about local support, national support. It helps you with your preparation and with recovery. So this is a fantastic app. I love it. I personally use it. I have it on my phone. It's free. There's probably some things in there that you could pay extra for, but I don't. I use the free version along with some of these other tools. But I highly recommend that you have that, because if you haven't started thinking about preparedness planning and making sure that yourself and your pets are safe, then this is an easy way to start so you don't have to build things out from scratch. So the NOAA radar app, this is what the icon looks like here, but oh, there's my mouse. This is what the icon looks like here. I'm circling it. It's kind of slow. This is the radar that I use. I know that most phones, Android and iPhone, come with their own weather app. I find those to be not as accurate personally. I mean, they're fairly accurate, but you can only do so much with the weather anyway. But I like this radar app because it just has a lot more features. Even the free version just has a lot more features. So this is the radar app that I use when I'm tracking storms. Like I said, and then also Mike's weather page on Facebook is a good resource. He's pretty accurate with his spaghetti models. And then my hurricane tracker, this is my favorite one, and I check this probably once a week anyway, but I also have notifications on just because I also like to see other storms throughout the world because I told you I'm a weird like weather nerd, but I'll hold this up to the camera so you can kind of see. Oh, there it is. It's this little like white one with the pink hurricane in the middle, but it's called my hurricane tracker, and that's what the icon looks like. I like this one because you can track hurricanes and tornadoes, even though we don't typically get a lot of tornadoes here in Florida, but we do on occasion. And every single time one has touched down in Florida, I got a notification from this app before it hit the weather app or the any of my tornado warning alerts went out. So it's pretty accurate and on point. And I like it for hurricane season because you can also see the trajectory, the wind speeds. You can look at the satellite image of it. You can see the cone. It'll show you the directions, all of this. If you're not as into the storm tracking as I am, that's okay, but it's still pretty helpful information. Like I said, I find this to be a lot more accurate than some of the other reporting apps. When we're talking about fraud, if you feel yourself inclined or you know family members or friends who are inclined to donate to these disaster relief causes, for Florida, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services has Check a Charity so that you can make sure that the charity or the rescue that you're donating to is legitimate or as, you know, as legitimate as we can make it because people can still register for things and be frauds, which I encounter all the time as a prosecutor. But there is at least this first checks and balances here that we have. The Federal Trade Commission also has a a similar charity checker for those ones that pop up. But I believe with the last hurricane that came through, or maybe I think it was Milton, there were, you know, over 70 fake rescues, animal rescues that popped up with people just scamming to get money when actually taking animals as well. So it's a pretty big problem. Okay, 12:50 on the dot. So with that, I'll take any questions if there are any. I'm
Oh,
looking through
I'm
the
muted.
chat. I see Tashana says, wow, that photo looks legit and pulls at the heartstrings. Yes, the AI photo.
Yeah, let's see chat. I thought I was unmuted and I just realized I was muted. So let's see the Q&A. I was going through like some of these apps already. I'm like, I just need to create a folder on my phone, like a disaster
Yeah,
folder, and just have
yes,
all these
that's what I
apps in
have.
there.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I have on my phone. I have as well as my weather folder, but that's what I have. I have all of my apps, all of my notes, my Google Docs shared, my PDFs, my files, everything, our wills, all of that on there.
Oh wow. So, I mean, I know we have some of the disaster umbrella group members in here, so I'm thinking idea for to put a document together or something where we have everything in one place where you can access it from your phone and start downloading all these apps because it sounds like you're extremely organized and really well prepared. And this is why you do these presentations and to share this knowledge with us because there are people like me that are not prepared at all. So now I'm like, I have homework to do.
Yes, yes, you have a lot of homework to do. Very important. And like I said, you know, I have other more broad preparedness things and talking about the go bag and things that you need to have in there, different first aid kits and just all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to make sure that this was tailored specifically to pets so that people are thinking about their pets too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we deal with a lot of clients in the community, disaster is about a hurricane is about to come in and a lot of people wait until the last minute. With limited resources, it can be a challenge, to get themselves to safety, but also making sure that their pets are also safe. It's a lot to prepare for. So this is really helpful. I don't see any questions. If anybody wants to ask a question or come off mute, they can raise their hand. Let me check the Q&A. Um, I don't see any. So if people are thinking about questions, what I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and drop the CLE code into the chat. Let me look it up and just to make sure I provide the correct one, and I'll read it out loud as well. And the CLE code is 2603142N as in Nancy. You have a comment? Thanks for the great presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
Right, some thank yous in there. I guess We don't have any questions, but I know Lauren shared her contact info, so I guess if anybody ever has any issues such as this, reach out to Lauren. She's always really responsive. If you're not familiar, if you're with Civil Legal Aid and you're not familiar with the Disaster Umbrella Group, feel free to reach out to me and I'll share information for all Civil Legal Aid staff on how to join that Disaster Umbrella Group. They meet monthly and they discuss all sorts of issues, emerging issues, share resources, and we have all the legal aids across the state join that meeting. Kathy does a great job leading those meetings, and every legal aid is always there present to share resources. So I do see a question. So okay, here we go. Recently, I have observed a spike in reports on neighborhood app platforms of unknown suspects entering private backyards and interacting with dogs owners, assuming an attempt to steal the dogs. Any knowledge about this behavior and potential safeguards for pets in backyards specifically?
Yes, that is a problem. That's not new. That's not new or novel. It's hard because some of the best answers that we can give to protect the pets are it's very much going to depend on the person's socioeconomic status. So, it's easy for me to say, yes, of course, protect your pets by putting up cameras, having, these different types of security systems, invest in protection training of the dogs. But all of those things cost money, and I recognize that people may not have those. Um, Obviously, if there's people are going to steal the animals out of the yard if they are really motivated to do so. So the best thing that you can do is just try to have it identifying information on your animal and have a plan in place if the animal goes missing to get that information out as quickly as possible. So microchipping the animal, air tagging the animal, having something like that that is a little bit more cost efficient if the person cannot or if people can't put up security cameras and protection train and things like that, making sure that the animal can be identified as quickly as possible. And then knowing, okay, if you expect to see the animal when you get home at 5 o'clock and the animal's not there, then you have your blitz ready to go. You know exactly what groups you're going to post in. You know that you're going to go to the pet finder and post on the lost pets. You know that you have certain Facebook groups you're going to. You're immediately contacting your local shelter and putting the stolen or lost pet form in, and you already have updated. It's important for people to have updated photos and identifying markers of the animal. My dog is an all black German Shepherd, but he has brown hair on the second toe on the front right leg, right? So making sure that you have as much identifying information as possible can really be helpful to make sure that the pets, if they are stolen, can be identified by somebody trying to buy them, or if they try to take them to the shelter. Usually people are stealing them to try to sell them again. And so making sure that that information gets out as quickly as possible. And that way, if somebody buys the animal and they take them to the vet and they're scanned, they have a microchip or something on them that'll identify them as belonging to someone else.
Thank you. That was a great question. Anybody else has any questions? We have a few minutes. Feel free to drop them. If you have any questions that come up afterwards, feel free to email them and I'll share them with Lauren. All right, since I don't think we have any pending questions, I'll go ahead and send out an email. Soon we'll send out an email within about 24 hours. It will include the CLE information, the link to the recording, the link to the materials. I will also be posting it on YouTube in a few hours. I will upload a copy of this presentation so you can access all of these amazing resources. You all have homework. I have homework. We have to start downloading all these apps and just being ready. Maybe I need to organize my phone since I'm at it because I have like a million folders and a lot of apps that I'm not using. So I have some busy
And get
work
a
and some
and get a
homework.
satellite phone just in case the phone service goes out. You got to get a satellite radio or phone.
Oh yeah. Well, thank Lauren, thank you for taking your time
You're
to
welcome.
educate us again. If anybody missed the September presentation, please take a look at it as well. It covered a lot of topics and it was amazing. That's why I asked Lauren, like, if you want to come back and do another one, then please do so. Thank you for being a
Absolutely.
resource for us. And on behalf of the statewide training community, the public interest law section, thank you. And thank you for everybody that joined us today. Have a great rest
Thank
of
you
your
so
day, everybody.
much. Have a good one, everyone.
All right. Bye bye.